right, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by Erie's own Jeff Craig, who is, of course, competing at LFA 167 September 15th. And I'm really looking forward to Jeff coming on the show. He's got one of the coolest nicknames in fighting. I'm curious to see how that happened. I'll ask him that question. But before I do that, Jeff, thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Of course, of course. So we're heading into your fight here, 1 week away, and you're coming off of a loss at your last fight in June of
Yeah.
this year. So I have respect for any fighter that steps into that octagon. Of course, competes in the boxing ring, and in my time covering the sport, whether it be MMA or boxing, any fighter that is coming off of a loss but finds themselves back in there 3 months later or 2 months later or months, or in the case of Donald Cerrone, maybe like 3 days later.
Yeah, right.
I have a lot of respect for that. So I want to give you props to coming back from a loss in short notice. Three months, since your last fight, and doing so in a way that allows some of the local fans of yours, some of your family, some of your friends, I'm sure will be at this fight. How much does that mean to you to know that you're heading from Erie to Niagara Falls to compete at Seneca with some of your family in attendance? I'm sure of it.
It's cool. I mean, I'm a little bit south of Erie, so I'm about like 30, 45 minutes south of Erie in a little town called Meadville.
Yep.
And I lived before that in a little town called Utica, which is where it all began. I have people coming up that when I first started training that were with me, and for them to see me fight live for the first time, it means everything, And coming off that loss in June, I don't have any excuses for my loss in June. I got caught, with a guillotine submission. Serek's great opponent, great dude, but honestly, I feel like I'm better 9 times out of 10 than both of the losses that I have. But you know what? My actions will prove it. I've never taken an easy fight. I'm fighting a guy who's 3-0 now up in Niagara, New York, and I'm super excited. I was looking for a quick turnaround. I was ready to go in a car two weeks later, honestly. But things happened. I got put on this card, and now my friends and family get to see me live, and it means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And you, in fairness, just watching your fights, you were probably ready, on the car ride home, or maybe even in the walk back to the hotel room, right? You seem like an avid, competitor, and you could Google your name, any fight fans, Google Jeff Craig, and you'd see the smile in the introduction. You really love this. Like this is not just a job. This is a career to you, obviously. That anyone that takes the step forward to make this a career, obviously you have to be a pretty tough individual, but you bring something different to the table, and I want to recognize that in terms of knowing that you might have had a setback or two, but the comeback's always better than the setback, right? And heading into this fight, I know that this is one that you're really looking forward to. You're fighting Barrington Bishop, who has competed, obviously in the regional circuit as well, and has had some solid fights to his name. So to get a win off of Barrington Banks, getting your record up, and obviously that's important to you. What would that do for your future goals? Like, are you looking to make a little bit of a run here at LFA, or is this kind of a fight by fight basis and see where things go?
I love LFA, so I would definitely love to make my run in LFA. Definitely, the comeback is definitely going to be great, and I'm stoked to fight Barrington. I watched him fight, and I was like, that's the fight I want. I haven't fought a striker in my pro career yet. I don't even believe I fought a striker in my amateur career, to be honest. Mostly everybody was a wrestler, so I'm really excited to get to showcase my striking. I'm really excited to, just show what I didn't get to show in my last 2 fights. I don't believe there's one fighter who goes into fighting thinking, I'm gonna go on a 2-fight losing streak real quick. I'll be right back. So that wasn't like the idea. It just kind of it happened. It's not, and it's not that I didn't train hard for him or anything with my coaches. One of them was just a little bit of a burnout, and then the other one was just I just got caught. I didn't listen to the game plan, and that's on me. I'll always put that on myself. I'm not going to put that on any of my coaches. I have great training partners, and I have a great team around me. So if anything goes wrong in there, it's pretty much my fault. But yeah, so mostly, to answer the question, it is fight by fight. But LFA is very, very generous to me. They have been. I've fought for them twice as an amateur, and I've done most of my pro career with them. So I really do have a lot of love for LFA, and if they keep me around, I'll be stoked.
Yeah, and it's definitely a great promotion. On this side of the fence too, it's such an interesting collaborative process for someone in journalism to interview a fighter. It's almost like we're both in the process together, and not just promoting your career, but promoting the sport. And at some point, this sport kind of called out to you, and you felt like this was a path, a road that you wanted to take. Talk to me about that a little bit. What started the process for you, Jeff, in getting the wheels turning to start this MMA career?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So I had moved around a lot when I was younger. I had gotten bullied a lot when I was around 13, and so I lived in a little town called Utica at the time, which the population of Utica is 200 people. And
Wow.
I made a Facebook post, and I was like, "Hey, is there any boxing or MMA coaches around?" And someone was like, "Yeah, right up the road from you." And I was confused, so I went up and talked to this guy named Ken Bryan, who lives in Utica. He owns French Creek Farms, the campground in Utica, Venango County, and I went up and talked to him, and he's an old Army boxer, and he had a few guys doing MMA and stuff. And his idea of MMA was he loved the idea of taking someone down and not taking any damage, even though he was an Army boxer. But he was like, I got hit in the head so much, like that's it's stupid to get hit in the head. Like I love the idea. And then for me, going there, I always had aspirations to fight. At one point, I thought I was gonna fight John Jones, but I'm not as big as I thought I was gonna be. But I never knew I was gonna make it a career until later on. I always kind of got pulled back into it. I wouldn't say I was like, I guess you could say I was a born fighter, but to be like born exactly for fighting and MMA, I wasn't. I feel like the world kind of made me that way. Coming from this bullied background, from an abusive father and stuff and all of that. So meeting him changed everything. It opened my eyes to a whole new world. It changed my life completely. And I kind of got I'm a striker, so I'm more of a striker. So I kind of went against what he wanted me to be, but striking always kind of called out to me. And then by the time I was a senior, I didn't really know what I was going to do, because I was wrestling. So had this idea of going to college and stuff, but I was an okay wrestler. I made it to states and stuff. I wasn't great by any means, and I wasn't getting the college offerings that I wanted, and I just wasn't reaching out. I really didn't know much about it. I didn't have much help in that area. And then I got into a fight protecting my little sister.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, oh shit, this is fun. I'm good at this. Like, let's go. So moved out to California after my senior year, about 2 days after I graduated. And I was at one gym in Redondo Beach, and then the coach left, and I was like, well, that's my opportunity to leave. Like, I wasn't getting the attention I needed, and I just didn't feel like it was working out. I was there for a whole year, and I almost feel like a whole year was almost wasted there. And tried a couple other gyms, and then I met Coach Tyler Womble's that Classic Fight team, and then that's kind of where I'm at now. I met him, and then I met my boxing coach, and then now I'm at the Den Training Center in Yorba Linda with Coach Ben Jones. So I got my start just basically, you hear all the stories all the time. It's just, bullies, people being dickheads. And I was just like, I just want to protect myself. And then now it's like, oh, I'm good at this. I like it a lot. And I do it not for money. I do it not for, fame or anything. You know, I have 1,000 followers on Instagram. I don't have that many. I do it for the respect, you know, respect from my peers and respect mostly for myself.
Sure, and what the sport was able to give back to you, right? The structure,
Yeah.
the discipline, the honor aspect through
Yeah.
competition, right? That's pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree 100% because coming from a single mom, you know, it's hard for, it's hard for your mom to raise a man. And, I have all the respect in the world for single moms. You know, I love my mom to death, you know, so
Mhm.
but in order to, I didn't have any discipline. I didn't have like really, and I craved the discipline. I craved the discipline. There was times when I'd get in trouble and my mom would be cool about it. And I'd be like, no, punish me. Like I craved this like
I know
discipline. I don't know
exactly
if
what you mean.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
You
So
almost test your mom, and then she wouldn't
yeah,
punish you the way that you thought she would, and it's like, what?
yeah, no, I'm grounded, right? No,
Yeah,
right? No. So my mom was never like the punishing type. And I I always craved this discipline. I wanted I see I was always into like martial arts, and I see all these guys, maybe like WWE wrestlers, and I hear about them measuring out food and all this, and I was like, that's the discipline I want. Or the military, I was like, that's the discipline I want. And the best way, you know, and I tell people all the time, the best way to get that discipline is to join a martial arts gym of some type, you know, especially if there's a single mom out there who has a son and they're like, I don't know what to do with this kid, you know, maybe I was a good kid. I wouldn't act up too much. But like if he's acting up, if he's, you know, just running amok, whatever he's doing, I take him to a martial arts gym because there's men in there who are going to teach him right. It's the honor that's going to teach him right. He's going to learn. He's
right.
going to learn a lot, and it takes a village to raise a kid. And that a gym on its own is a village. So
Yeah,
I truly am thankful for the sport or for what it has done for me.
that's awesome. That's really awesome. That's pretty inspiring. I think a lot
Thank you.
of people from the outside looking in can see that with MMA, that those that compete in it, it's their life. You know, like your
Yeah,
journey, you know, as a fighter is your life, just like, you know, a doctor's would be theirs, and it's your career. That's your job. That's what you decided to embark on. But it's more than that. It's part of who you are. You know, and
yeah,
that's pretty special to recognize that, especially as young as you are. You know, as you continue to embark on this career, and you've been willing to put yourself out of your comfort zone, and to find different spots, find different trainers, find different areas, you know, moving to different areas, as you mentioned. What was that process like for you? Like, there had to be a moment where, and there might be moments that come up even now where you say to yourself, man, I made this decision and there's no going back.
yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, a few times I've done that, you know. So when I first got out here, I was like, I started missing wrestling at the end of the summer, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go wrestle in college, you know, maybe I'll have like a little career to fall back on if I do something. Like maybe I was gonna go for like get my associates in nursing or something. Um, and I was like, oh, and then I could wrestle in college, and then you know maybe like I don't know, I'll have all these opportunities with my college wrestling and stuff. So and then I signed up. I practiced for a whole year with the gym, and then I also practiced with a local team and the local college, Cerritos College, community college in Cerritos, California. And I finally got to the point where college started, and I lasted the whole 3 days. And
It's
I
not
was
for
like,
everybody. It's not.
no, it's and it wasn't even that. It was like a wake up call. It was like, bro, what are
Yeah,
you doing? Like you moved
right.
out here to fight and pursue this dream, and then the only reason you signed up is like, yeah, you miss wrestling, but you also are doubting yourself. You're doubting your abilities. You're doubting the dream. Like, no, you can't have anything to fall back on. Like, no, like screw that. You're gonna see this thing the whole way through. Why do you want wrestling in your back pocket when that's not even my style. My style is striking. I like fighting long. I like getting inside, banging elbows and knees off of people's heads. Like that's fun to me. I don't want to take somebody down and sub them. Like it's just not. It's art, but it's not my type of art, you know. So
Right.
I I that really that was the first time where it was like, oh man, there's no going back on this. Like you know. So the professor actually. And why I wrote it, I don't know why, but he was like, write a quick like paragraph essay on why you're here. and I wrote an essay on basically like I don't want to be here, like I don't know why I'm here. I kind of doubted myself, and I'm going to drop out. And I dropped out that day, and I went back into fighting, like went into it like kind of full time after that. So that was the first moment, and then there's been moments here and there, of course, especially after my last loss. It was just like, whoa, bro, what are you doing? Like, is this for you? And then it just like the clouds clear or whatever, the rain stops, and you're just like, dude, you got choked out. You didn't even take any damage. You got caught. Like, it's not like I got knocked out,
Right, right.
or beat up. It's like, oh, I got caught with the submission. All right, I'll go to jiu-jitsu a little bit more, And I've done a tournament since then and stuff. I won a tournament back in July with it.
Mhm.
And I did another tournament with my team, So I've been doing jiu-jitsu a lot, and I've been settling. But those are the times that really stick out to me. Like, no, man, we gotta keep going.
And that submission, like you just mentioned, shifted your thinking and made you dive into jiu-jitsu even more. Like that's the difference between a fighter and a fighter that's a competitor and a fighter that's just fighting, and there is that balance. I've talked to fighters in the past that might be a little bit older, where they already feel like their skills are their skills, and their skills are not going to evolve as much because they already have to the level that they are. Whereas in your case, you're a younger fighter, so you know that there's a lot of meat left on that bone that can help you improve and get you to that next step. And I definitely think the process is only just beginning. And I mean, sometimes a loss, can be what helps you get to where you need to go. And a famous fighter once said that you never lose, you only learn. Conor McGregor said that after he lost to Nate Diaz. So, that's definitely something that I think any fighter or any person actually, when you have a moment where you feel like you're losing or you lost, that's just another reason to learn rather than dwell on it or harp on it, to move on and to put yourself in a really good spot heading into this fight. So your headspace is right where it needs to be. And I give you lots of props for that.
Appreciate it.
Of course. And talking about your skill set, and someone that might not, I've watched you fight and I know what you bring to the table, but to somebody that has not, how would you break down yourself, like putting your analyst hat on? What would you say are your strengths in the cage?
I believe okay. So that's a good question. I believe a few of my strengths are just, I try to fight behind my jab. I do try to stay long on longer opponents. I do use kicks a lot. It's been hard the last few fights, especially, I mean, in my pro career, to use a lot of the kicks and a lot of the fancy stuff that I want to do. I have a really funky style, but it's hard to use that when you're fighting a wrestler, because it's like, oh, I do this and I get all funky, he's going to just take me down, So there was a lot of that doubt in my head. But honestly, looking back at it, I should have just fought how I wanted to fight, because at the end of the day, my wrestling is solid. My jiu-jitsu obviously needed work, but my wrestling was solid the whole way through. And I should have definitely believed in myself more. But I fight at long range. I do like, when I get inside the pocket, I do like using knees and elbows. I do like using fancy, like we call it a skip knee, but a lot of people will call it like a flying knee or whatever. I have a lot of like cool stuff. I like to do a lot of spinning elbows, spinning back fist to a punch, to a hook. I don't know. I think I'm a fan-friendly style. I think I have that style that, I win 2 or 3 more fights by knockout, I'll be on the Contender Series or something. Even though that's not necessarily in the plan, I would like to rack up a few wins and really get the experience I need before I go in the UFC. But I do have that style that they would be looking for sure.
Sure, and it goes to most recently Sean O'Malley, right? Like a name that had that high flying style that just wows an audience, that makes people go, wow, they really know how to kick. They really know how to put the kicks and punches together and range and move in and out. And I would agree that's your best asset as a fighter, and that you're able to mix those punches and kicks really well and fight long and know when you have to close the distance. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that skill matches up to your opponent. And speaking to just the opportunity that's in front of you, you mentioned that you love fighting with LFA, and if I was, I'm not, but if I was any sort of fighter manager, this would be the place where I'd want one of my fighters to really cut their teeth in, so to speak. It's an odd expression, but it's an expression that essentially means prove your worth in this promotion that is proven to bring the next level to the next level. That
Yeah.
and how important is this for you? I know that we've talked about this, but with a win, you're one step closer to potentially getting yourself to where you want to go, and prioritizing that win is just getting that win, right? Whether you get a knockout, hey, that's a bonus. You get a submission, that's a bonus to yourself and your career. But putting together your goals, as you are alluding to, with that win in the form of fashion that you dream of, that's one step closer to the dream. What would you say is your dream? Would it be competing in the UFC or fighting around the world? What would you say is the dream of Jeff Craig?
So I like that question.
It helps you envision it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's cool. It's a cool question to think about because I think about it daily. I think about my goals daily, and not only would it be cool to fight in the UFC, I want to be a world champion. I feel like a lot of people get to the UFC and they're like, oh, well, I made it, and then they fall short or whatnot, or that's it. Like, no, I want to make it the whole way. I want to go the whole way. Like, I'm aiming for that top. Whether it's the UFC, I do really like One Championship. I love what they do over there as well. So if One Championship, wants to pick up a white boy from Pennsylvania, I'm all down for it.
I think they would. They're diving into the U.S. market. I know that. They had a wonderful card out in Arizona and Denver.
Yeah, it's cool.
It
was super cool. So if they want dirty white boy, I'm down for it. So, but the goal is to be world champion. Obviously, there are goals to make a decent living in this sport. I'm not someone who needs to be, I'm not looking to be insanely rich. If that happens, that happens. But money, of course, to survive and to thrive would be great. Traveling is a big one for me because I do love learning about other cultures and seeing the world and what it has to offer and such. So I've never been out of the country, so that would be great for me. I do have a lot of ideas that I would like to do, maybe with the community and stuff. Maybe use a platform to preach about more like child sex trafficking and stuff, and how disgusting the world can be. I think there's a lot of mainstream stuff that gets talked about in the fight community, but I think that's something that everybody, no matter what side of the political spectrum, can agree on. That it's just you should just eradicate. So I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about more, even though it's uncomfortable, and that's something I would like to use my platform for. I have a bunch of ideas, and of course a lot of these ideas require money and a certain platform, but so until then, it's kind of all it's like all loosey goosey. But I do want to be a world champion is first and foremost.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say the ideas are out of the picture. I mean, you had an idea to embark on a fight career that's allowed you to reach this point where you caught the attention of Ed Soares, who has been in this business for a really long time. And has overseen, some of the best ever, in regards to the fight game. So the fact that you're fighting under his banner and embarking on this, the fact that you have so many broad scoping goals for yourself and dreams for yourself that go beyond fighting, I think is pretty important too. And anyone that I ask that question to, fighter, athlete, they typically just focus on their career. They never dive into what they want to do to make the world a better place. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's really every individual is different, right? But the fact that you threw that in there as your answer, as a part of your answer, pretty inspiring. So I appreciate that for sure. And what can the fans expect that are coming? I got a lot of folks that I know that are coming to this event, that are tuning into this show tonight. What can the fans expect from Jeff Craig, when your name's announced, the bell sounds, what can the fans expect from that style that you fight with?
Oh man, it's a lot of funk, man. Just a lot of just my big goofy ass going out there and just fucking throwing these things until knock or knocked. I'm fucking
Mm-hmm.
swinging. So I definitely am gonna go out. I have a pretty solid game plan in my head. Lots of kicks. Lots of knees and elbows, lots of jabs. Yeah, I don't think he has the footwork for me. I might talk a little bit in there. I like talking to my opponents when I get in there. I talk back to my coaches. If you ever watch my fights, I'm always talking to my coaches when I'm
Yeah.
fighting. So I have a really fun style, and that's what everybody can expect. It's just just a whole bunch of fun going on in there.
Sure. What are some of the things that you do like to say to your opponent when you're in there? Easy or not?
Yeah. So I don't really get too I don't get too like chirpy like that.
Right.
Where it's just super disrespectful. The only time I'm disrespectful is I'm pretty chill, so I'm only
Yeah.
disrespectful if they're disrespectful.
Sure.
I don't think that energy needs to be. I don't fight with that energy. Like
Right.
anytime, if I fight with a smile on my face, I'm gonna do really good usually. But
Right.
if I fight and I'm mean mugging and I'm trying to act all tough and stuff, that's just not what. That's just not. I don't know how to describe it. That's just not in me, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just like if I fight with that, anytime in wrestling when I wrestled with like aggressive anger or whatever, I lost. I got my ass beat. But
Me
anytime I was
too.
out there just having fun, yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
me too.
anytime I was having
It was
fun,
my worst nights ever.
right? It's
Yeah.
wild, dude. It's wild. I was like, and it's the time. Those were the times I was the cockiest too, and I just like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate it, I guess. But for the most part, if I go in with a smile, I just go in and have fun. I do really good. But I remember when I fought Avalos for my pro debut, he he gave me he said he like nodded at me about my jab, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll teach you it in the back room afterwards," And I just told him I was just telling him good shit. Told him he was tough,
Yeah.
In one of my amateur fights, I gave the dude props because I got a takedown on him, and I was just like, "Oh damn, dude!" Like made me wrestle for a second.
Mhm.
Um, I remember hitting somebody with a liver shot, and I on the way, and he caught my kick, and he went down. The way he was breathing was I could hear it, and I was like, "Oh, that one hurt, didn't it?" And and like a minute passed, and he was like, "Yeah, that one hurt."
Yeah, that's the stuff
uh,
that I think separates wrestling, MMA, boxing, like from any other sport. Is that yeah, you're both in there, but you're both in there knowing that you're trying to do the same thing to one another, right?
yeah,
it's it's a funny
yeah,
thing.
yeah. It is. It's funny, and that's what I tell people all the time. Is my coach and I will talk about it all the time. Coach T and I, there's you're not fighters aren't normal people. I have a lot of love for a lot of fighters, but a lot of fighters I don't like. And in order to be in this sport, you have to have some sort of issue with you, whether it's I would say just insecurity most of the time. Most fighters have a lot of insecurity in a lot of ways. It's rare that you get those fighters who are just like Stephen Thompson, who are just like
Right.
super chill, super mellow.
Man,
Just
the
just
nicest. Have you ever met Stephen Thompson?
no, I'd love to.
No, I met him about 5 6 years ago. UFC 210 was in my hometown of Buffalo,
Okay.
and I was at this bar, and he was there too. Chris Weidman was there. Rashad Evans was there too. Dana was there actually as well,
Oh, sick.
and yeah, it was really cool. And he was the nicest guy. Like people make jokes about how he's the what do they call it? The not the BMF, but
The
the
nicest.
NMF. Yeah.
Yeah.
and he should always have that title. Like he was wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey. Like he was and like for someone like local to meet a fighter
Yeah.
like him and in my own backyard and him wearing a Bills jersey,
Just repping.
it was crazy.
Yeah, it's sick,
What?
man. Yeah, that's honestly I've met some really cool fighters. I'm not gonna knock every single fighter. There's some of my best friends are of course fighters. You just
Mhm.
get some of these guys who are just so douchey and so insecure and who never have any introspection about themselves, and it's just drives me crazy because I
Sure.
can sit here and I can name off all my insecurities right now. Like I have my issues. I know why I'm in this sport. You know, not all of it is because I love fighting. It's like, oh well, I got bullied, so I'm here to prove something to myself. You know, I have a chip on my
Right.
shoulder. That's my insecurity. But another fighter who is also the nicest fighter is, have you ever met Raymond Daniels?
I've heard really good things though.
Great, dude. He's
Yeah.
my teammate, and he's
Oh,
just
really?
yeah. He's one
Yeah.
of the nicest dudes you could ever meet.
Wow.
It's wild. It's like, dude, you could kill me with your spinning back kick, any type of little spinning kick you want. I don't even know what they call it. You can kill me with it, and
Yeah.
it, what, you're just the nicest dude ever. Like I don't even know you, and like the way he makes eye contact with people in a group to make you feel part of the conversation. He's just
Sure.
awesome, man. He's great people, great people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Who are some fighters, that you have idolized, through your journey, fighters that you look back on past, maybe they're retired, maybe they're not, that you just point to and say, those are fighters that I respect. I know you mentioned Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but
Yeah,
is there
yeah. I
another
like
one
Steve.
that comes to mind?
I like him a lot. The fighters that I studied a lot though, because there was very few that I like sat down and like studied, and was like,
Sure.
this is what I want to implement or whatnot. One of those fighters is TJ Dillashaw, who actually my coach was coaching for a while. He coached him for the Sanhagen fight, coached him for the Aljo fight.
Yeah.
And of course he's retired now. But he was I idolized him like crazy, and then for him to come to the gym and train with us was dope. To see his work ethic, everything he does is 100%
Yeah.
all the time. There's no
Yeah.
chill on that guy. He's so competitive, and
Right.
he's dope. He's dope. So he was someone who I idolized. I like Israel Adesanya a lot. I like his style of fighting a lot. I'm not really into the anime and stuff, but uh, I like his style. I like how loose he is. I like his footwork. I like how he does get creative with certain things. Another one, I have a lot of respect for Calvin Cater and Shane Burgos. I like those
Yeah.
guys a lot. They have
Mhm.
great boxing. Um, I studied their fight before because they fought before, and it was a great fight. And Calvin Cater has a beautiful jab. He doubles it up a lot, and he has a beautiful. They call it a drop step 1-2, and that's where he gets a lot of his knockouts from. Is he'll hit a 1-2, hit a 1-2 the whole fight. Then they start reading it, and then he'll mix it up with what's called a drop step 1-2, and that's just high level. That's high level IQ boxing
Right.
wise. So I have a lot of respect for him and his team, and then I just like Shane Burgos when he was in the UFC, when he had his rhythm. I think he has a lot of weight on him right now, and he just hasn't really found his rhythm with his weight.
Mm.
But when he was fighting at 45s in the UFC, beautiful style. John Jones was someone who I really liked a lot, and idolized too. Um, I like Stipe. I didn't really get too much into studying him, but I do have a lot of love for Stipe.
How could you not like Stipe, right? I
How
mean,
could you not like Stipe?
he's saving fires. He's pulling cats out of trees.
The all-American man right there.
And then he's knocking people out by night with the heavyweight strap on his shoulder. Like
Exactly.
that was pretty
It's sick.
badass at that time.
It's sick, man. So I do have a lot of love for Stipe, fighting wise and stuff. Of course, I don't know him personally, but those are pretty much the ones I really like. I do like Sean O'Malley's striking style a lot. I do think he has a really, and Corey Sandhagen. Those are two that I really like as well.
Mhm.
Sean O'Malley's just kind of a weird cat, so I try not to get too much.
He's his own breed, but I think you have to be to be a superstar, right? Like you have to have that weird, intricate facet to an extent, right?
Yeah, I think to an extent. I think
Yeah.
he went. I don't know. I think he kind of went the cheap way, in my opinion. I don't know how to describe it, but
Yeah, no, I get it. I get
like
it.
the big hair, the bright colors and stuff. Like I feel like the guys who are like truly themselves, who are truly like, and who make it still, like
Right.
like Conor McGregor.
Right.
He's just a shit talking Irish guy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just guys who just were unapologetically themselves. Sean Strickland, look at him. He's famous, and all he does is talk a bunch of shit and just share his opinion all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like
on everything.
on everything. And it's like he didn't need the fancy clothes, the fancy cars, all that.
Right.
I think Sean O'Malley would have been fine and made it where he is now without all that stuff. But I mean, to each their own. He's got more money in his pocket right now than I do in my bank, so good for him.
Right. It's fascinating breaking that down, though. I always ask fighters that question, like, who is a fighter that you idolized? I mean, fighters for me that made me want to cover the sport. I look at it a little bit differently because I knew my wrestling journey was over, and that was that. I was ready to put that to bed. That's the difference between me and you. I was ready to put that to bed. I wasn't willing to move forward with that. But once it was over, I was ready for it to be over. But George St. Pierre is definitely one, right? In terms of true champion type fighter that was well rounded, kind of raised the bar, and definitely one of the greats. And I definitely agree with you. It's funny, when I ask fighters that question, it almost becomes, the fighters that they love are the fighters that they fight similarly to. Like when you mentioned Corey Sandhagen, Sean O'Malley, TJ Dillashaw, I see that in your game. I see that.
Oh, thank you.
It's definitely pretty interesting whenever I ask a fighter that question and they give me names that make me think I know that they're watching them and incorporating them in their training, in their style, and that's not easy to do, but you're able to pull it off. So props to you on that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. For
sure. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you hopping on the show, taking time out of your schedule. It was a pleasure chatting with you, getting to know you. And I think, I can speak for myself and anyone that tuned in tonight and say that it's pretty awesome to know your goals are beyond yourself. They're about making the world a better place. And I really appreciate that, brother.
I appreciate it, brother. The world is an ugly place, and anything I can do to, make it a little bit better, I'll do it. I would love to do it, even if world championship isn't my calling, I would love to do something to make the world a better place and, whatever community I'm in or whatever it is that I go into. But that's the whole idea, So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for hopping on. And, obviously, keep punching through this journey. And that is life, right? In and outside the octagon, right? And I really appreciate you hopping on, buddy. I'm looking forward to your fight on the 15th at Seneca Niagara Falls, New York. Once you're, getting your hand raised and you're walking through the halls, I'll try to shake your hand and get a handshake and meet you in person. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you hopping on, Jeff. You take care.
All right. You too, brother.
Stay safe in this crazy world.
You too, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
That was Jeff Craig fighting at LFA 167. What a conversation that was. Truly inspiring in a lot of different ways. To get the chance to talk to these fighters today, I really enjoyed it. I want to send a shout out to LFA for their just full ability to allow me the opportunity to chat with some of their fighters that compete. And this is a great organization. I mean, they've been able to bring people to the precipice of the UFC and then some. I mean, some of the fighters that they've had, Brandon Moreno being one of them, and among many others that have competed in their cage. Ed Soares has a great promotion going, and I'm really happy to be a small part of helping promote the events that come to my own backyard, Niagara Falls, New York. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I had a great time tonight. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you at the fights September 15th.